been out here for a few days now, and I'm pretty sure this is the house of the Spielberg of UK finance YouTube. There he is. There he is. Get in.
I do know you're in my bush.
Jesus.
What the hell are you doing in there? Get out. Come on, get out. Oh my God, it's you, isn't it? That YouTuber. What are you called? Mama Furfur. You best come in. Right then, bush boy. Take your shoes off. So, what can I do you for?
What I really want to know is, how does it feel to be a full-time YouTuber?
Well, give me any excuse to tell anyone. You know, I was downstairs literally 2 minutes ago telling my cleaners that I'm a full-time YouTuber.
I did hear.
Yeah, I left my mic up and she was like, what's this thing? And I was just like, oh yeah, no, I'm a full-time YouTuber. Yeah, I mean, it's good bragging rights, but in reality, you know, the grass is greener. It's better than my full-time job, but it's more lonely. So I think one thing I've really missed about the office environment is people.
Was that a surprise?
Yeah, because I think you're sick of them. Do you know what I mean? I think you think, oh, like I don't choose to be with these people every day. But actually, I love the people that I work with, and I spent more time with them than I did my family. I'm not saying I was sick of them. I knew that in the main, like the 6 or 7 people that I work with every day, I knew I loved them. But I think for a lot of people, they think my colleagues aren't my friends. But then when you leave, you actually know it's good to be thrown in with a pot of people that are kind of different. Like you're forced to be friends with different types of people. So yeah, now there's this like kind of cliche of I go out to thousands of people every week, but I speak to no one.
So sort of sounds glamorous, but the reality is you're actually in a dark room by yourself.
This right here, sat right here. You know, editing and all of that is 90% of what I do. Even the talking to camera is like 5%. You know, that I think people's perception of a YouTuber is they look at they're in front of camera all day. That's like the tiniest bit. Most of it is scripting or editing, and that's quite like tedious or repetitive work that's really, for me, is quite meticulous.
So what's the solution then long term? Because if you want to continue doing this, how do you make sure you don't get lonely and fed up?
I think the thing is, like, you know, you got to frame it as I'm lucky I get to do this every day, right? Like, so I have to just remind myself, you know, it's not a bad thing that you're lonely. Actually, you're doing something that's really cool for a job. And I used to hate commuting, you know, like I really hated that. And now I don't have to do that. So you have to kind of shift my mentality to be like, actually, what I get to do this. It's not that I have to do it. It's like I'm lucky in that sense. But long term, I would love to be able to build out quite a small team of people that I kind of bring under my wing, and we just make content together that's fun, and have a really good time. There's areas of my production that I am not the best at, and I would love to bring really skilled people in those areas to help me, and like just have a space where, you know, I run it, but everyone has ownership within the business, and we grow it together, and it's like a really cool place to work. That's the vision. That's where I'd like to take it.
So what's your background then with personal finance? I mean, have you always been interested in investing?
I've always been interested in money since a really young age. Like my mum always used to say that when I was like 4 or 5, I used to collect my pocket money, and it was me and my mum's single parent family. So we didn't have lots of money growing up in Birmingham. So she would sometimes borrow from me, and I would charge her an interest rate.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, at the age of 5. Yeah, what?
And what was the rate?
I don't remember. A few Haribo maybe.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what a little git. But I would always, I think when you come from a background of not having much money, you become obsessed with having money. I grew up in an area where no one had any cash. So you become, we were never hard up. I had everything. I wasn't poor, but I was certainly aware that we couldn't do what we wanted. So you're focused, and you start to think, well, if I had money, all the problems that are in my life wouldn't be problems. So I had that obsession, and I had a natural ability for business studies in school, you know, that I was good at that. And I think the route is always go to uni, do this, do that. So it was like, what subject am I best at? Business, economics, finance.
Is that what you did at uni? Economics?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So I did that course. Didn't really pay it, you know, I drank for 3 years. 20 grand hangover is basically what I got.
Idea.
Yeah. And throughout that period in time was the financial crisis. So I'd been interested in personal finance in the sense of saving money, and always thought that investing was a bit of a stretch for me. I expected my degree to kind of teach me how to invest. Did it hell?
Yeah.
It taught me Maslow's hierarchy of needs and
Yeah.
marketing principles. So I kind of came out a bit deflated around that and tried to get into investing. And that inherently leads you to trading, which blows up in your face.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
That was the first thing you did?
100%. Paper trading account, turned it to like £500,000 in a few months, thought I've got this nailed. Didn't realise that those paper trading accounts are basically structured in ways to make you think that you're better than you are. Put a few grand in and blew that up and kind of walked away. At the same time, it was like the financial crisis. So I graduated in 2010, which the markets at that time were not kind to people. So it was a difficult time for investing. I didn't have the ability to short. I didn't even really understand what I was buying. So I just made all the classic mistakes that I talk about, all the stuff that I see people doing right now with the fear, selling everything and dumping. And
so when you leave uni, then let's say you're book smart, you've done economics, etc.
Yeah.
But you still found that actually for practical investing, you still had a massive gap. You didn't actually know that much about that. Is that fair?
Nothing at all. And I certainly didn't understand that index fund investing. I had that same view that everyone has that when they start that investing is Wolf of Wall Street trading, which is just completely opposite ends of the scale. They're like, football and American football. They're both called football, but they're both sports in a similar ilk, but they're very different, right? I actually would say that I thought that I was good with money at that point, and then I took a real dark turn in my life through some bad financial decisions. So I actually, coming out of university, thought I was good with money, stepped into the real world and got my ass handed to me, which then kind of out of desperation in terms of being in a lot of debt, bad financially, had tried investing or trading and it had gone wrong. I then kind of built up my knowledge from the ground up. And I actually, because I was in so much debt at the time, I went and worked for a debt management company. And that's kind of where I learned about insolvency, IVAs, those solutions. And once you start to learn one area in finance, it kind of you just spill over into the others.
So that's like 10 years ago now, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So what is your investing style now? I mean, am I right in saying you're not really a stock picker? Is that fair?
I pick some stocks, but as my channel reflects, up to 90% of what I invest in is indexed, global index funds, cheap and broadly diversified. I will pick stocks, but I'm never going to put that much money into them.
Why? Why pick them then?
It's a bit of fun. I think if you understand the small, you get a better picture of the big. So by understanding individual companies, I then understand how macroeconomic trends affect the markets better. By investing in tech businesses like Google that have tanked recently, I can understand how interest rate rises would affect the valuations of growth stock businesses. If I was just invested in indexes, I wouldn't necessarily understand why tech affects the S&P so much, etc. And I think everyone wants to think they're smarter than everyone else, even though I know I'm not,
It's funny, isn't it? You see it everywhere. Everyone's saying, I know I can't beat the market, but I'm going to try. That's basically what everyone seems to like to do.
It's like this kind of God complex or that, like, you're special kind of thing. I mean, 99% of people don't, and I know I won't, but I'll give it a go.
So it is very much practice what you preach then. So the message you put out on YouTube from an investing style for beginners and all the stuff that you've done, that is what you do too.
Yeah, 100%. And I see people all the time making the mistakes that I did when I first started. There's people now that watch my channel, and I think I sit there and say, low-cost, globally diversified index funds. I have a bit of money if you want to invest in stocks and shares. People come into me saying, I've just lost everything on X, Y, and Z. That Luna thing. I've had people reach out to me saying I've lost thousands in Luna. And it needs to be kind of a shot across the bow maybe for those people to realise.
A bit like the mistakes you made and learned from.
100%. Again, I learnt those mistakes. The main thing is to not let it put you off, because that's the biggest shame when people kind of think, oh no, I just lost 500 quid and then walk away.
Yeah, that colours their view of that. That's what investing is.
Yeah.
When it doesn't have to be that way.
No, I think, you invest in globally diversified index funds every day like you have a shower. It's like a habit that is like essential to your life that people, people get to a point where if they don't do it, they feel weird. And that's how I want people to see indexing. It's like part of your routine. And then you're investing in individual businesses or throwing a bit of money at crypto. It's like going playing five-a-side with your mates. You're never going to be a Premier League footballer. You're never going to be the best. But you might just have a bit of fun along the way. And it's probably better for you than gambling on accumulators and stuff like that.
Yeah. So your YouTube channel blew up pretty fast. Your second ever video, I think it was, investing for beginners.
Yeah.
Shot on an iPhone.
Yeah.
In your dusty old loft.
Yeah.
And now sits at something like, I don't know, 300,000 views plus. That's 4 Wembley stadiums of people that have watched that. So how do you feel about that? That's pretty unusual. What when you look back? I mean, do you ever look back at that video? What was that like?
Yeah, it's a terrible video. I mean, it's good information, but like from a production perspective, it's awful, and I am wooden as hell. The only thing in there is I've got a jawline back then. Yeah, lockdown was not kind. I would say I feel lucky because I see loads of people making lots of content. I keep my eye on the UK finance scene, and I see loads of people making content that is better than that in terms of production and effort. And they're not doing as well. And I think, would I have sat there for a year and plugged away to nobody? Maybe not. Yeah. So I think I'm really lucky in the sense that I had that positive confirmation early on that meant that I kept going.
Had that video have not blown up, we might not be sat here now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I'm 33 years old, right? I don't have the time to put into things. Not saying that 21-year-olds do, but when I was at uni, I could have plugged away at something that was I'd play Skyrim all day or Halo or whatever. Now I've got commitments that mean that my time is like spread, and I need to allocate that correctly. If I'd have done that for a couple of years and it gone nowhere, would I have carried on? Probably not. So that to me was the fortunate element. It didn't blow up straight away. It got like 40 views on the first day, which for a second video is insane, right? So there was that there. And then it just ticked up and up and up, and then it hit that kind of GameStop period, which this is the look, like that GameStop thing brought so many people to the market who it just...
you were right place, right time in that way.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about that video then that people have found?
I think it's a video whereby if you watch it, you will understand at the end what an index fund is, how to buy one, why you buy them consistently on a monthly basis, even if the market goes down or up. I think it just answers those questions, and it takes people... I wrote it from the perspective of what's the video that Damien needed at the age of 20 coming out of uni, where he thought that trading on plus 500 or whatever was the way that you had to invest. Whereas like, no, actually, you don't need to pick stocks or analyze P&Ls and balance sheets. You just need to put your money on the whole market. And I think it takes people through that journey quite well, grounded with some wisdom from Warren Buffett, which means it's like I'm not saying it. It's like, here's the best guy in the world saying it. And they're like, oh, actually, I kind of know that guy, or I've heard of him. And he's telling me, buy the S&P 500 or buy
so
this.
It's all about value for the viewer then, isn't it? What you're saying there is the reason we think that video did well is because the person watching it left with value, knowledge. They gained something from that 10 minutes, whatever it is.
If you want to succeed on YouTube, it's all about value for the audience. And value is hard to quantify. Value can be humor. Like, why do people watch Emma Chamberlain? Like, she's sat in a bed making a cheese toasty. There's value there in terms of like the relationship. But from an investing perspective, it just needs to be, there needs to be a clear journey that you take someone on where they didn't know something going in. Now they know something and they think my life can be better, or my financial life can be better because of that knowledge. All of the stuff I do now, which is all the silly messing around, in a way, really adds no value to the viewer beyond maybe a bit of entertainment. That video, being my biggest ever video, kind of demonstrates that really it is just about communicating a simple message for people to take away. I also think as well, it's about realising that a lot of people know nothing, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think as people who know a little can get obsessed with trying to sound like they know everything, when in reality, break it down into its ABCs for the people that are coming at it that really need the help in just understanding. Because the majority, my uncle said to me the other day, my uncle's one of the smartest men you'll ever meet. He was a colonel in the army. Now, he looked after the whole of Camp Bastion, so he was like the head of that out there. And he was just like, oh, finance isn't my world. I'm like, you ran $1 billion projects, and you're saying that finance isn't for you, when in my eyes, investing in an index fund is as easy as making a coffee.
And also, it's really interesting because finance has to be for everyone, because we all have money and we all have to spend it to exist. You can't not be involved with money in some capacity.
Yeah, you're almost taught that it's this like world that is only for a certain type of person, and the only way to access it is to pay fees, and that's just like a crying shame, really. That right there is probably the cause of so many issues within the UK in terms of people's finances.
Talking about value for the end user, you must get a lot of people that talk to you directly with, ask you questions, comment, and you must get a lot of people that have started investing because they watch your videos. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've had 5 or 6 people come up to me in the street, and that's when it hits home. Like, oh, these are real people. Not that I don't think they are. Like, I constantly remind myself, and that's why I reply to all the comments. But when people say they started investing because of me, that's a nice feeling, because I know if that person stays consistent and invests a couple £100 a month, £100 a month, and they do that for 10 to 15 years, statistically they will be better off than when they started, and that I helped them do that. Yeah.
They'll be sat there age 50 thinking, I'm so glad that I watched that video.
But I'm not naive in the sense that, with the Beatles, right? The Beatles, one of the greatest bands of all time. If the Beatles didn't do it, would someone else have done it a few weeks later? Like, all I'm thinking is, I'm just that guy. I'm not the reason all these people have invested. I'm just the guy that's there when they were looking for it, and maybe they resonated with my message more than they resonated with a Sasha or a you.
Yeah.
Like, but if I hadn't have done that, would someone else have filled my place?
I think maybe, but I also think that's just not important, because the Beatles did it and you did it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of
I'm
irrelevant.
not comparing myself to the Beatles.
Wow, the Beatles.
let's
You should have scaled that down a touch, perhaps. They're like the world's greatest ever band.
Shaking Stevens.
Wasn't he the Welsh Elvis? Is that what Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm Shaking Stevens.
So 80 odd videos later, 63 odd thousand subs. God knows how many hours of people that have watched your jokes, memes, 90s references, which I enjoy because we're about the same age. And now it is your full-time thing. What was the moment, the tipping point where you thought, you know what? Let's do this full-time. Let's commit.
I'd been sitting on the decision for ages, and in truth, I probably should have gone earlier. But for me, it was just like, what is life? Is it just to work? Is it to go to a full-time job and work 50, 60 hours a week, and then to come home and edit and make videos and all of that, and not be present around my family and stuff? When I've got an opportunity here I'm already earning enough from the YouTube thing to support me, so why not go for it? I was doing both things badly, and that really doesn't sit well with me. I was taking the mick out of my previous employer, in the sense that I wasn't really doing much work, and I got paid a good amount of money from that employer to do work, and I didn't like that personally. It just doesn't. I'm not like you constantly feel like you're going to get found out, and you feel like as well that these people have put you in a position and given you this opportunity where they pay you loads of cash, and there's people behind you that would step into that role and do it better. And also, I just wasn't making content that I was really that happy with, and it all felt quite manic and rushed. And then again, that made me feel my audience here are tuning in to listen to what I say about certain topics, and I'm not researching them as broadly as I'd like to. I'm not presenting it the best way that I would. And then again, with my family, it was about the time that I was spending with them.
What hours were you working then? Full-time job plus YouTube?
I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know how I was really doing it, but let's say, the thing is, like, it was bleeding over. So like on a Thursday, I was doing no work. I was just doing YouTube. I was working from home Thursday, Friday, so I was just doing that then. But I was working, it was probably, each video was probably 40 odd hours around a full-time job of like 10 hours a day, plus 6 to 7 hours of commuting. Plus I've got family commitments in Manchester that I drive, and that's another 4 or 5 hours a week.
The maths just doesn't add up.
No, there wasn't enough hours. I was regularly going to bed at like 2, 3 in the morning, waking up at 6 a.m. And that's kind of what you need to do, to be honest. Like, if you want to take a side hustle to a full-time job, you're going to have this crossover period where you work like an absolute dog to get that off the ground. And the hard bit when you go full-time is actually to keep working, because you kind of just go, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it became a question of, how long am I going to do this for? Is this what I want my life to be? Do I just want to be working all the time? Or do I want the ability to kind of go for a walk and all of these things?
So you wrestled with that decision for a long time. What made you finally do it?
I felt that YouTube was slipping away. I felt that there was inconsistency in my upload schedule. There still is.
I never know when you're posting.
No, no one does. Neither do I, mate. Just throw them out there. Just sling it at a wall and see if it sticks. I like to keep people on their toes. Do you know what I mean?
I get a notification. Oh, here he is.
Yeah,
Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, so bad. But I felt it kind of slipping away, and I always thought, like, I know what the potential is in YouTube. I've got my friend Sasha, who's a YouTuber, and he's very brave. He went full time straight away without even
That
making.
is brave, isn't it?
Yeah, he had 2 subscribers, and he sold his business and stuff. And I was like, he's doing well. And from my perspective, if I just double the amount of content, hopefully I'd double the amount I earn. So it was kind of like, if you're not going to do this, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And there have been moments where I've sat here and thought I've made the wrong decision. I will be honest.
What, since you've been full time?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then it's like feast and famine.
Yeah.
There'll be periods where I actually don't earn that much money, and then there's other periods where I earn loads. And also this notion that I would work less. I've swapped a 9 to 5 to work 5 to 9.
Yeah.
And you don't switch off. There's this undersold benefit of a job, which is that you walk out the door and you don't need to think about it. And I know that people think that they think about their job or they care about their job, but you're part of a team, right? That if you don't work, people pick up the slack. If I don't work, no one's picking up my slack. It's just nothing's going to happen. And that was a kind of pressure that I knew would be there, but I still didn't know how hard that is.
Until you actually feel it.
Until you know that, like, if I don't show up every day, I'm not earning a penny. I used to work in sales, so I had an element of that, but I still had admins and support staff that would take the calls.
And a basic salary.
Yeah, a basic salary, massive that. And also leads, getting fed leads, do you know what I mean? No one's feeding me anything now. So, yeah, but then I wouldn't change it. I know I wouldn't. But if you're asking me if there's moments of regret, I sit with my missus. My missus, like, coaches me through it emotionally about, like, the ups and downs of it. Just the feast and famine.
You need that, though, don't you? You need someone in your corner to talk to.
Yeah. You need someone who will just soundboard your emotions, because you're constantly just paranoid that it's all going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there's a seasonality element. Like, right now, the sun is out. No one cares about invested.
Yeah.
But you can't help but think that that's your fault.
Yeah.
When you make content and it doesn't fly, you're like, oh, I'm rubbish. I'm feigned into insignificance.
I think you need, and I guess your missus does this for you, it's levelling out the highs and lows. Because there are great moments. When you hit a video and it really flies, you must feel great. Yeah. And then when you work your ass off on one, it doesn't hit in the way that you thought it might.
Yeah.
And you need to find somebody that tempers the highs, but also brings you up from those low points to say, go again, Damo.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, also to enjoy the highs.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll hit a big thing and then you'll be like, I'm never going to do that again. Right, next. What am I going to do? How am I going to replicate that? It needs to be bigger and better. I need to be funnier. I need to be this. I need to be that. Like, and someone just to be like, Damien, no one's putting that pressure on you but yourself. So,
talking about funny, can I ask you? So, I think a lot of people like your videos because of the entertainment value. Yeah. That's how I found you a long time ago, and that's what was unusual. I thought. Were you always at school? Were you the funny guy, class clown? Was that your role then?
No, I was an idiot. I tried so hard to be random, one of those guys.
Oh, you were that guy?
Yeah, just an idiot.
God.
Yeah. Damien. What a guy. I remember once coming into school with a rake and a hoe. Not the good kind of hoe. A garden hoe. A garden hoe.
What an image. For what reason?
Just because, it was so random. and
And that landed well.
My teacher was like, you are the cancerous tumour eating away at the bedrock of this school, or something he called me.
Holy shit, is that what they said?
Yeah, Mr. Glidden. Shout out Mr. Glidden. He's now my sister's head teacher. But anyway, I just trying so hard to be random to fit in, because I wasn't like the sporty one, I wasn't this, I wasn't that. I've always felt that I was like quick-witted, or that I could see funniness within things, and I've always felt that I was creative, but I was always just good within a sales setting. So it was kind of like, you go sell because you're good at that, and here's good money for doing that, you know. So I've always fancied flexing my creative muscles, really, and this kind of allowed me to give that a try. I think the one thing about, you know, being funny and humour, there is obviously a pressure there, but what I found is that, you know, when you go to a comedy show, like a stand-up comedy show, everyone in the crowd kind of laughs at the person on stage, and I think like the audience is there and they're a bit more forgiving and sympathetic because they're like, God, that's brave. I wouldn't do that. So I don't need to be the funniest person in the world. I probably just need to be one of the funniest people in finance, which isn't that hard because everyone's quite serious. So even a light bit of humour, people probably appreciate and give me a little bit of slack. And I just try and find funny situations in normal life. It's kind of what I do.
The thing is, though, I think stand-up's an interesting parallel to run, because I think stand-up's easier in a lot of ways than what you're trying to do, because you get an instant feedback. You crack a joke, the crowd laughs, you think, that was funny. You get that feedback loop. Talking to camera in a lonely, dark room, cracking jokes that you hope land and are funny without anybody, there's no, you know, cheesy laughter track. I think that's really tough.
Yeah, especially because you watch it hundreds of times back, don't you, while you're editing it. I mean, so it loses any sense of being funny. I think the thing is, like, people remember stuff that's funny, they don't remember stuff that isn't. So you just kind of got to throw it out there and hope for the best. And what's always like interesting to me is I like layer different points of humour throughout, memes, and then I try and have like a recurring kind of joke that builds. So like I do have a formula to it. You introduce it at the start, and if you look at like humour theory, if you repeat a joke or you can get a joke that lands multiple times, it gets funnier as it goes. And that's why inside jokes with your friends seem so hilarious, because they apply it to situations that just come out of life. And it's like, oh my God, it's genius, it relates. So there's like a structure to humour, and it's like a muscle that you can exercise. But there is a leap of faith there in terms of, is this funny, is it not, throw it out. But it always surprises me on what people find funny and what don't. I put certain things in, and like my mates will be like, oh God, that was hilarious. I'm like, really? That was like the lamest joke. Everyone calls me Carol. As an example, you know, that's such a bad joke.
Very hard to explain to people that with it being funny.
Yeah, it's because it's not funny. It's not funny in the slightest.
You say it's a muscle you can flex, so are you getting better at being funny? Is it easier?
I would say so, yeah. I'm not
saying that's a weird thing.
I'm not saying I'm getting better at being funny. I would say that I'm getting better at finding the humour within things and knowing what will land. It's a timing thing, isn't it? It's about delivery. So in my most recent video with the foam, when the foam hits, deep breath, that adds just like this element to it that's like really relatable, like the eye roll or whatever. But that's the silence, you know, that's the humour is in that little silent moment.
Yeah.
Like
and you knew that's what you would do.
Yeah.
That was planned.
Yeah,
humour in that way. Yeah.
It's always, what was happening there was my missus was off shot, dropping the foam on me.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her, like, drop it, don't throw it. When it lands, don't say anything, because we're going to have a second pause where I'm just going to deep exhale. It's like knowing that those are the things. And I think with humour, two people could do the exact same thing. One's funny, one's not.
Yeah.
You know that, is it Kevin Bridges or whatever, the Scottish guy? The guy's just funny, isn't he?
Yeah.
He says things.
His voice helps.
Yeah.
He's so Scottish.
Yeah. But there's certain people that just have these funny bones or a funny delivery. And it's not about what you say, it's kind of how you say it and how you deliver it. And one thing that really helps is music. I can like cut the beat to add a bit of dramatic effect. So that when I say I'm getting better at packaging a joke so it lands, maybe.
Yeah. So what are your plans for the channel then? What's the future hold? What's your aspiration?
God, to survive.
Yeah, first and foremost. Keep eating.
Yeah, exactly. I just need to keep growing it, obviously. And like I said before, I'd like to get it to a point where maybe I could bring on some staff, maybe an editor. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to let go of parts of my baby in a way. I would just like to get it to a point where it was quite sustainable. And I would like to make content really that I've made this educational content in the past, and I like making that content, but I want to make content really that's quite unique within the niche if I can. And I think everyone would say that, but I would like to make stuff where people sit back at the end and go, holy crap, was that a finance video? Yeah. Did I just actually learn something from that? Because it was like a piece of entertainment. which is like a million miles away from where I am at the minute. And there's that Jimmy Iovine quote of, you don't shoot the horse you rode in on. You know, I can't completely move away from what I do because that's what my people like to watch. But I would like to develop it to something that is where people would call it, you know, creative more than factual, you know, still have that undercurrent of education, but be more something that people might say, this is actually entertainment as well.
Yeah. Look, I've never been to this part of the world, so I don't want to give people your address, but I've never been here. So can you show me where we are? Show me some of the sites.
Oh boy, we're going to have some fun.
Oh my God. I'm actually quite nervous.
Yeah, you should be.
Let's
Bring
go.
you home.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What a night. Come on, Tom. I just wanted to come on and reflect, really, some key takeaways from the interview. No, I can't do this. Hang on. I can't do this. Right, that's marginally better. A couple of key takeaways then from the interview. Damien leaves university with a degree in economics, seems to me to be a pretty smart guy, and yet had absolutely no clue about investing, and I think a lot of people will relate to that. No practical skills, and he had to completely mess it up first before getting himself on the right track. You know, just another prime example of our education system really letting people down on the practical skills on building good financial habits and wealth into the future. You know, Damien talked about making investing as habitual as taking a shower, just make it something that you just simply do. And I totally agree with that. And it's good to know about his personal hygiene is rock solid too. But the second thing was all about risk on a couple of levels, because Damien's gone full-time YouTube there with no idea really what the future holds, and he's got a family to support. So in some ways, from the outside looking in, you can say that is a risky decision, but let me tell you, in my opinion, it is totally the right one. And I mean that, success or fail, whether he becomes the next big YouTuber or whether he goes down in a ball of flames, which I don't think he will do. But either way, it's still the right choice, because the truth is, it's more about the regret of looking back, say 5 years on, looking back and wondering, you know, could I have done that if I'd have just given it a go? That is a far worse outcome to look back with those kind of regrets rather than going down in a ball of flames if you do. And I think there are some parallels when it comes to investing as well. We always talk about risk with investing, don't we? Right now, the risk of not investing, I think, is greater than investing. You've got inflation at crazy runaway levels that is a known risk eating away at your cash. So if there are two things I want you to take away from this interview, please let them be this. Number one, if you're not regularly investing in some capacity, then please give it some serious thought. I mean that, some really serious thought. And number two, if Damien ever asks you out for a beer, the correct answer is no thank you.